Hello everyone. So before I get into this video, I wanted to kind of talk about the schedule for our videos for the next several months. Like I was talking about reviewing Survival of the Prettiest by Nancy Etkoff. I was going to do that, and I started reading it and I started prepping for a video, and honestly, I'm tired. I'm sick. I'm coughing a lot. I'm taking medication for it, but the medication takes a while to really take effect. And so for the next several days, I'm probably going to continue to be sick. And I mean, it's not just the fact that I'm sick. The fact that I'm sick is definitely part of it, but part of it also is that I'm pregnant, and I know what pregnancy does to me physically. And I'm going to spend the next, I don't know how many months, 7 months or so, feeling sick in one way or another. And third trimester, if I make it that far, is going to be a real fun adventure, because I remember last time I managed to make it all the way to the third trimester, I looked like a walking corpse. And it was because of some of the health issues that come up for me when I'm pregnant. It's just not, it's not pretty. It's not pretty. It's downright hellish, and it's months, multiple months of just hell. And so that's probably going to happen again, and I'm probably going to be pretty darn miserable for a while. So, just to be realistic about my expectations for what I actually can do. I might do some book review stuff. I might not. I just don't know how physically capable I'm going to be for the next several months. So I'm going to be making random videos for the next several months, because I don't know what else I'm going to be. I don't know how much. I just don't know how much I can put into them at this point. And I hate doing that, because that's such a. I don't ever want to be the kind of woman who's like, oh, I'm pregnant, so I just can't get anything done, because I'm pregnant, oh la. But really, like, once you see me in the third trimester, like, I'm gonna look corpsey. It's gonna be, I look nasty. Third trimester hits, and it's gonna be. I mean, maybe it'll just kind of skip me this time, and it'll be one of those things like, last time I was pregnant like this, it was really bad, but now I feel wonderful. It could be one of those things, but I don't expect that to happen. I expect that third trimester is gonna hit, and things are gonna get really, really rocky for me. So, in the interest of just being realistic about making these videos, we're going to kind of not follow any sort of schedule here. So, whatever I feel like I have the energy to do on any particular day, that's what the week's video is going to be about. So today I was on YouTube just kind of looking for some things to entertain me while I was waiting to pick up the kids. And I ran into this video on my suggested feed. I don't know how old it is. I don't actually know who this guy is. I've never actually watched any of his videos before. It just popped up on my suggested feed, and I clicked on it because the title seemed a little crazy. And I started watching it, and it was interesting. And so I put the link in the description, and if you click on that link, you can watch this video. And it's a very, very left-leaning guy bashing a very, very conservative, right-wing leaning kind of woman, for posts that she made on her Instagram account. And if you like that sort of thing, that's what this is. I don't normally watch those kinds of videos, but it was interesting because I kind of got to look into two very, very polar opposite kinds of mindsets. I can't say that I really agree wholeheartedly with either one of them, but I think sometimes it's really very educational, very eye-opening to see very, very different points of view about the world. And that was kind of what I got from this. Like, there's a clip, and I'll put the timestamp on here so you can see it. There's a clip where he's talking about this one post she made on Instagram. And the thing about things like Twitter, Instagram, anything that you post on there is going to be really, really short, really, really brief. And so almost always it's going to also be very, very trite. It's not going to really carry a lot of detail. It's not going to have a whole lot of meaning. It's going to be some short little quip. And that's why I don't have a Twitter account. I think it's stupid. You can't communicate meaningfully in short little quips most of the time. I mean, you can relay information that's just very basic, like X happened, I saw X, I did X, but you can't you can't say anything philosophical in any realistic sense, or at least that's been my impression of it. But she had this little Instagram post, and he was ripping it apart, which was pretty easy to do. I mean, it's Instagram. She's got these little like tiny statements, and they're all pretty, you know, trite because they're short. And uh, you know, he had some good criticisms of some of the things she said. She had some things that she said were pretty dumb, so they were pretty deserving of criticism, but that didn't make him right all the time either. It was an interesting video. Anyway, this one particular quote that she posted that he was ripping apart, it was eye-opening for me in the sense that I finally got to see what a very left-leaning individual thinks of something like this. Now, my iPad is dead, so I got it all on a sticky note. Hopefully I can read my own handwriting. She wrote, and this is in quotes, "A wife shouldn't have sex if she doesn't want to," end quote. And then she goes on to say, "So a man doesn't have to go out and work hard to provide for his family because he really doesn't want to. It's all a matter of mind, deciding to obey God and going with the truth instead of our feelings. It's doing what is right." He kind of ripped this apart as, you know, a person choosing whether or not they want to have coitus with their partner is not the same thing as going out and providing for people who are relying on you to provide for them, blah, blah, blah. And that was his argument, and his just looking at it and saying, okay, well, why would anybody be dumb enough to believe that a person owes somebody sex? And honestly, that's very true. Why would anyone assume that anybody ever owes you sex? Nobody ever owes anybody sex, ever. So her argument is kind of weak, you know. She's equating having sex being a woman's duty to her husband the same way that a man's duty is to provide to a woman. And I understand it's that very old world, you know, thinking that a lot of people have, where it's like, this is the way things should be because this is the way things have been in the past. And I don't really understand how any of this works, but this is the way things should be. Simple, you know. It's been this way, so it should continue to be this way for no other reason than that it's been this way. And then she carries on that same mentality with her mentioning of how we have to obey God. And it's like, I struggle with any argument that hinges on obedience to a God or God figure. Now I'm Catholic, and I try to be a good Catholic. Right now it's kind of difficult to go to church because of, you know, coronavirus, but I try to be a good Catholic. The thing is, I don't like being told simply, do this blindly because God says so, ever. I've never liked it. And part of the reason is I grew up with a lot of crazy, really conservative, born again, just insane Christians in my hometown. And I had to deal with all their antics and all their craziness. And it really put me off Christianity for many years. It was my husband who finally convinced me to come back to the church. And that was difficult for me. So, I mean, I don't have the best impression of anybody making a statement of, God says, therefore you should. I just think it's a very weak argument, and it's a very easy argument to rip apart. If you're not specifically, like, really, really strongly driven to believe in God, then why should you do anything anybody says simply because God says you should do it? Like, there's no logical reason to follow through on that. So instantly, like, automatically, you lose the cooperation of any agnostics, any atheists, anyone who's of a different religion. They all look at it and say, oh, well, your God says this, but that doesn't mean I want to do it. And that doesn't mean I have any motivations to do it. I much prefer somebody who actually takes the time to figure out why you should do this thing that God says you should do, and then gives you those reasons. It seems like a much more solid argument to me. And I was talking with my husband about this. Like, I don't know why it always irks me so much when people bring this whole, well, God says you should kind of argument forward. And I know that part of it is just that old, like, that Pavlovian response of, oh my God, really? You're telling me I should do X because God says to? Like, I had a lot of stupid conversations when I was a teenager with a lot of people who were really, really self-righteous and really, really, really didn't deserve to be. So, I mean, I do have that Pavlovian just knee-jerk, ugh, great. They're talking about God again. Which is, like I said, I try to be a good Catholic. I'm trying. That's the best I can do right now. Yeah, I was talking with my husband about it, and he was like, well, you know, we talked about it back and forth. And kind of the thing that he pointed out to me, there are a lot of people in this world for whom that very very rigid kind of appeal to authority thinking works. And this is something that I struggle with, something I keep forgetting. Not everybody wants to sit around for hours on end thinking about ethics. That's not necessarily fun for some people. Some people have real life things that they need to go out and do, and they don't have the time, the energy, the resources, the whatever going on in their life that they can just sit around and think about the ethical ramifications of, everything, all of it. Like, just who has the time for that? Like, unless it's a hobby that you really like, unless you enjoy ethics, unless you want to become an ethicist, who really has the time and energy for that kind of philosophical bullcrap? And not everybody wants to do that. So it's kind of good to have, this higher power, this God who comes in and says, okay, these are the rules, you follow the rules because I say so. And everybody goes, okay, God says we follow the rules, we go follow the rules, our lives will be better for it. And everybody goes out and does that. My husband basically broached the idea to me in the sense of, how do you know that murder is wrong? And it was like, well, it should be pretty self-evident that murder is wrong. He's like, yes, but how do you know? And it's like, oh, you're right, you're right. There are a lot of people for whom it's just easier to have this appeal to higher authority. And so this woman, probably one of those people, I saw a lot of her posts were about God, and it's like, okay, God says you should do this. There you go. Higher authority has given us a rule, and we need to go out and follow that rule. And, if you're not particularly philosophical and you have real life things going on that are taking up your time and energy, and you don't have extra time and energy to devote to sitting around examining the ethics of every single detail of a situation, that's pretty good. That works. There's nothing wrong with, this appeal to higher authority. I just personally find it horribly irksome. And part of the reason I find it horribly irksome is because somebody like this dude can come along and rip your argument to shreds, which is exactly what he did. He looked at it, was like, this is a stupid argument, which, let's face it, it is a stupid argument. It's all a matter of the mind, deciding to obey God and going with the truth instead of our feelings. It was so what? How exactly is that going to convince any woman to have an enjoyable sex life with her husband? Like, seriously, it's so... I don't know if you guys are familiar with the phrase, close your eyes and think of England. If you're not, you should look it up. It's really entertaining. Basically, lay on your back, close your eyes, spread your legs, and just try not to think about what's happening to your body for a little while he, does his thing. Oh God, that, where's the fun in that? Like, really, where's the fun in that? It's very easy to forget that this is supposed to be fun. And that's kind of what I wanted to make the video about. Like, it was interesting seeing this guy's perspective. It was interesting listening to this woman's perspective. For all I know, she's a really smart lady and she has a lot of really great ideas. It's just that you cannot communicate well through Twitter or Instagram posts. Like, it's just this little short block of texts. If you can fit it on a post-it note easily, it doesn't have enough meat to it to make a very good argument. It just doesn't. There's no way. I would say almost don't even try. So the thing that I wanted to get to in all this is basically this close your eyes and think of England kind of mentality, that a woman should be having sex with her husband. And here's the thing that I think a lot of people tend to leave out of this discussion. This guy is looking at it saying nobody owes coitus to anybody. This is very true. Nobody owes anyone coitus. And honestly, who would want to have, I think they call it starfish sex, with some woman who's, literally lying on the bed like a starfish and with her eyes closed, trying to think about anything else apart from the fact that someone's, doing all that with her. There's no fun in that. Nobody's having a particularly good time when that happens. I think the thing that a lot of people don't realize about this kind of situation where the man wants to have sex and the woman doesn't want to have sex is the fact that men and women respond to sexual stimuli differently, or have different pathways to arousal. So for a man, you get aroused. You know, it's like, okay, that's it. I'm good to go. I'm ready to go. Let's do this. Do you wanna? Um, and for a woman, it's not that simple. You know, you don't necessarily always have that kind of response. Now, for me personally, when I was 23 and I met my husband, it was like, yes, I want it all the time. You know, day, night. You know, I might have just woken up. I might have morning breath. I don't really care. Let's go for it. You know, all the time, anytime, you know, we just got done. Okay, let's do it again. I mean, early 20s, that was me, and it was fun and it was easy, you know. I had a lot of muscle. I had a lot of, you know, I worked out a lot. I had a very high libido. It was fantastic. And, you know, now it's been over a decade. It's been over a decade now. And I'm not as young as I used to be. So you know, I've had a few kids. My hormones are not what they used to be. My body is not what it used to be. Nothing is really what it used to be. So my husband will, you know, he'll kind of get in the mood, and I won't be there at all. You know, I'm in a completely different headspace. I'm, you know, not there. I'll be thinking about something. I'll be working on something. I'm not there at all. And he'll kind of approach me a little bit, and it's like right away what I've learned to do, and this is not something that happened overnight, but this is something I learned how to do. And I knew to do this beforehand because I had read about it and I had thought about it. But if you're new to this concept, don't expect it to happen overnight. But whenever that happens, whenever he approaches me and I'm not in the mood, I always say yes. And here's why and how. I know that it takes me as a female longer to reach a state of arousal than it does for him as a male. That's just a biological part of being a girl. You got the girly hormones working on you, that's going to be a factor. So I'm not going to be aroused when he's aroused. I'm not going to be hot and ready to go for it the moment he is. I say yes because I know that if I give it a little bit of time, if we kind of start getting into the activities, if we do a little bit of the foreplay, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get to the point where I am aroused and I do want to, you know, enjoy these kinds of activities. And oh God, I'm talking about sex and I'm coughing up a lung. I'm sure that's just the sexiest thing in the world. But yeah, I get to that point where I'm aroused and I'm ready to do the coitus thing. And you know, I'm not there right away, but I get there. And then we get to have fun, enjoyable sex. It's not a close your eyes and think of England kind of situation at that point. It's, you know, it's a very willing and ready kind of activity between two participants who both want that activity to be occurring. And that's just because it takes me a little while as a female who has, you know, all the female working parts and hormones and things. It takes a little while to get there. And so knowing this, if your partner, and I understand this is a channel that's watched almost exclusively by men, so like let's just give some girl talk here and then pray to God that some woman finds this someday. As a woman, like it's one of those things where I'm not in the mood, but I understand that if he's in the mood, I'm able to get into the mood if I just give it a little bit of time, a little bit of patience. I've known women where it's like, well, he smells bad because he hasn't showered. It's like, okay, well, give him a kiss, tell him to go take a shower and get yourself ready, and then by the time he gets out of the shower, you're good to go. Or, you know, well, I haven't had a shower yet. I feel gross. It's like, well, give him a kiss, tell him that you're going to take a shower real quick and get ready, and then you're good to go. Like, you know, let your partner know that you do need foreplay. Let your partner know that you do need a little bit of time to warm up to it. You know, it's not an on and off switch. It takes a little bit of firing up all the cylinders. But once you devote yourself to taking that time, you can get there. Like, you have to have a little bit of faith in yourself, and you have to know your own body. Like me, I have faith, and I know that I can get, like, and I don't mean faith like faith in God kind of faith. It's like, I know me. I know me. I know how all this works. I'm very familiar with this machine here. I know that I can get there. I know that with him, you know, I can do it. It's just, you know, I need a little bit of time to warm up. You know, let's do some cuddling. Let's get into into this process. Give my brain a little bit of time to wake up to the idea, because it was off in this other, like, it was looking at this other thing. I was reading a book. That's where my brain was. My brain is off reading a book. You have to give it a little bit of time to kind of lure it back over to this whole sex idea, and then once it's had the time to do that, we're good to go. And so I always say yes when my husband wants to have sex, even if I'm like completely distracted by other things, because I know, and experience has taught me this. This is one of those things you kind of have to, do a little trial and error with, and figure out what you need to get you going, because what works for other people isn't necessarily always going to work exactly the same way for you. But after a little bit of trial and error, it's like, okay, I know that I am going to get to that point. And the reason I do this is, number one, it's good for my husband. He likes it. It's good for me. I like it. I enjoy having good sex. I enjoy having fun sex. I enjoy sex. So, it's good for me. It's good for our relationship. It's an excellent bonding activity. And it's also one of those things that I think a lot of women secretly want, that they feel like they can't find. Like, so many women in this world, they want an exciting, passionate, sexual relationship with a guy. And then they get into this kind of rut in a relationship where it's like, he asks for sex, she's not in the mood. She's like, no, I don't feel like it. I'm tired. I need to take a shower. I'm gross. I'm not in the mood. The kids just went to bed. I need to unwind. I'm stressed out. All these things. These are realistic problems that get in the way, but it's like, if you want to have that exciting, adventurous sexual life that you fantasize about, you have to build it with your partner. And that means, kind of developing almost a ritual for getting yourself into the mood with your partner. Because it's kind of hard when you just got the kids into bed and you need to take a shower and you're tired, and, maybe it was a really stressful day, and maybe they made a mess in the kitchen, and maybe you have to clean all that up now. And, you're kind of pissed off about that. And it's like, when in all of that, are you taking the time to just kind of get in the mood? And, maybe, and this is one of those things, you can train yourself to do that. It doesn't happen overnight, but you can. Maybe you have some special lingerie that you can pull out and put on that, makes you feel pretty and reminds you that, hey, you are in fact a sexual being. And no, you're not just a maid for your children, because God knows I feel like a maid for my children more often than not. Whatever it is that you need to do to kind of pull yourself out of, because I think women have this problem a lot. We live inside our own minds, and pulling ourselves out of that track that we're following, that mindset that we're in, into a more, sexually open kind of mindset, it's not easy. And it's a habit you have to build up. And I think a lot of women don't do it. And I think that's the reason that there are so many men complaining about wanting sex and not getting sex. Now, there's more to it than that. Every couple has a slightly mismatched libido. And some of them are extremely mismatched, and some of them are almost perfectly on par with each other. But generally, there's a mismatch somewhere. You're always going to have one partner with a higher libido. You're always going to have one partner with a lower libido. Usually the higher libido partner is the man, but not always. And this is something I think a lot of guys in the manosphere don't necessarily believe, but I've seen it in couples that I know where the woman actually has the higher libido. And sometimes it's because the man has low testosterone issues and health problems and all sorts of things like that. But it does occur. There are occasions where the woman has the higher libido. There's always going to be one partner who wants it and one partner who's really just not there. And one thing, typically it's the woman, one thing that partner with the lower libido can do to really make life easier for the partner with the higher libido is just try and figure out a ritual that they can get themselves into to just kind of get themselves just a little bit more in the mood to meet their partner on their level. It doesn't mean you have to do it every single time. Sometimes if you have a headache, you have a headache. Sometimes if you're just tired and you just need to sleep, you just need to sleep. But when it comes to maintaining the health and stability of the relationship, the amount of happiness that you feel with your partner in your relationship, sex is a huge part of that. Sex is a huge part of building and maintaining a healthy relationship. It's a fantastic biological, chemical bonding behavior that if you can maintain that practice with your partner, it's going to help the two of you feel more connected to one another. It's going to release a lot of chemicals in your brain that are going to help you feel connected to your partner without you having to do anything else, which honestly is very, very nice. It makes life easier, which is good. And that's probably not what you're gonna think about when you think about having sex with your partner necessarily. It might be one of those things like, ugh, do I have to? It's like, well, no, you don't. You don't have to. Nobody has to. You don't. But it makes life so much easier in other ways. It makes things better in other ways. And many people in this world quietly hope and pray that they can have a really engaging, really fun sex life without realizing that they have the potential there, but they have to work at it. They have to build it. You have to make that happen. It doesn't just spring out of thin air, and it's not something that's going to, it's really easy when you're first getting together, because then you've got a different set of chemicals working on you, and then it's like a drug. You just gotta have it. But once you've been in a relationship for a while, particularly after you have kids and you've got all sorts of life stresses and you're trying to make mortgage payments and things are crazy, it's very easy to lose track of that initial drive that you had toward one another. And taking the time, getting yourself into the mindset, again, not lie on your back, spread your legs, close your eyes, and just try to think about something else, but actually trying to get yourself into a sexual mindset. Trying to feel sexy, maybe having perfume that you wear, or going. My husband and I, when we were newlyweds, we would go to sex shops, like porn shops, and we would walk around and we would look at the different wares that were on sale there, and we would just kind of have fun. Like, it was just it was a sex shop, so of course the two of us would go together and we'd look around, and there were all sorts of things that we saw there that we would never ever think to buy and never ever need, but every once in a while we'd find something fun and kind of new, and we'd buy it and take it home, try it out, and it was fun. Sexual adventure, sexual exploration, this is something that you can do inside of a married relationship in a very, very guilt-free kind of fashion. That's one of the wonderful things about being married. It's like you're with somebody that you are building this lifelong relationship, presumably lifelong, that you have a lot of love and trust for. You wouldn't have married them otherwise, presumably, hopefully. Hopefully. And so, like, go have an adventure. Go explore this side of life together. Try to figure out ways to get yourself to do that. Not in the just make yourself do it kind of sense, but realize that it's going to take a little while to get into that mindset. Realize that it's not going to be just a right away on-off switch, kind of flick it and it will work sort of thing. You have to kind of fire yourself up. You have to take time. You have to be patient with yourself. And you kind of have to build this up. But if you get into the habit of doing that, number one, it gets easier, which is nice. And number two, you get to have this wonderful, rich part of your life with your partner that it's very easy to miss. It's very easy to miss out on if you're not actively engaged in trying to make these things happen. Not in the I'm going to please you kind of sense of the word, but in the, I'm going to get mine too kind of sense of the word. I'm going into this activity because I know that I love doing this activity. I'm just really, really tired. I'm just really, really not in the mood. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on just kind of slowly bringing myself around to this. And that's how I think a lot of women work. And I think that's one of the reasons that my husband and I have managed to maintain a very healthy, active sex life, despite the fact that, some days he'll kind of turn over and start stroking my arm, and I'm like, I'm so not in the mood for this. I'm tired. I don't feel well. I've got this nasty cough, In fact, I think last time I had the cough and he mentioned it, it's like, you're sick. Are you sure you want to do this? I was like, let's do it. Definitely. I definitely want to do it. Do I feel like it right now? No. Am I going to feel like it in a few minutes? Yes. The one caveat I would put in all this, of course, is, are you still in any way attracted to your husband? That's a question you got to ask yourself. If you are if you love your husband, if you're in one of those relationships where it's like, I love him, I'm happy I married him, I want to be with him, and I do like having sex with him, but I just don't feel like it right now because, I just had a baby, my body's doing, whatever it's doing, and I look like a deflating balloon, and I feel like an oversized gumdrop, and I just look gross, and I feel gross, and everything's gross, and why would I want to have sex right now? Because I've been there. I've been there several times. It is a real and genuine feeling. If that's your problem, then it's like, okay, you got to get yourself into a sexual mindset. You got to slowly kind of work yourself toward arousal. You got to spend time thinking about what it is that you can focus on inside your mind that will actually get you aroused at this point. Because your life has changed dramatically, and it's not like it was when you were 23. You got to get yourself into that mindset. And it's a new path you're going to have to take to get there, maybe. There's that. And then there's the situation of, I was attracted to him maybe once, but I really don't ever want to have sex with him again. I don't. I don't like having sex with him. I don't find him sexually attractive. I don't like the idea of him doing sexual things to me. It grosses me out. It turns me off. And if you're one of those women and you're having those thoughts, like if that's your knee-jerk reaction, like, ew, not him, you really have to think about that. Like, you really have to think about that. How did you get to that point? And there could be many different reasons. And that doesn't necessarily automatically make you a bad person. I know there are a lot of guys in the manosphere who are going to complain about that, but maybe, I dated an alcoholic for a while. I dated an alcoholic for a year. It was way too long that I dated that guy. There weren't a lot of good pickings in my hometown, so it was like, well, yeah, he's a raging drunk, but yeah, it's not like there's anybody else I can date, so I'll just keep going where I've been going. I understand what it's like. Like, if you're with someone who's addicted to a substance, I can see a woman very reasonably and very naturally coming to that point where it's like, I am so mad at this person. I do not want to show them affection. I do not feel like they deserve it. And that's understandable. And that's something that's indicative of a huge problem in your relationship. And you need to get something done about that. You need to talk with them. You need to get help. If it is the case of a substance abuse problem or some other addiction, you need to get them help for their addiction, and they need to want to change. Because addiction is one of those things. It's like once they go down that road, it's like you can't drag them out of it. They have to choose to change for themselves, and you can't fix them otherwise. There's nothing an external force can do to solve an addiction problem that I've seen, and granted my experiences are limited, but really, reasonably, is there anything that an external force can do to solve an addiction? Like, barring some sort of state penitentiary level kind of craziness. But there are other things that can get in their way too. It's like maybe you've developed an attraction for someone else and you're not interested in your partner anymore. You want to be with that other guy. Are you fully aware of that? Have you really taken the time to think about what it is that's going through your mind that's stopping you from wanting to have sex with your husband, and instead you're maybe thinking about someone else? And what does that mean? Why did that come around? Is your husband at work all the time and you've started developing a fondness and a friendship with this other person because you miss the closeness? Because I can see that happening with people, and it's one of those things where it's like, well, then you really need to be having sex with your husband because you need to kind of rebuild that bond. It's been damaged, it's been injured, and you need to treat it like a wounded animal, kind of baby it and take care of it if you want the relationship to survive. But I mean, if you genuinely do not want to have sex with your partner, genuinely, and it's not one of those, I'm just tired, I'm just not in the mood, I love him, but I just can't right now. If it's a genuine, I don't want to have sex with him, like I just do not, ever, that's a big problem. That's like the giant red flag of all red flags. It's the bright, flashing neon red light saying, hey, you have major problems in your relationship, and you need to look into them very carefully and very meaningfully, because that's not good. And it could be something really, really sweet and really nice. Like maybe you have some sort of health problem and you go to the doctor and they say, oh, we can fix it, here's a pill. I don't know what health problems do that, but I mean, it could be that simple. It could be that simple, or it could be something much more complicated. But those are the two kinds of situations that I see happening. I don't see really any other situations that fall outside of these two categories where it's like either A, I'm tired, I have a headache, I don't feel well, I'm stressed out, I'm just not in the mood. I'm just not in the mood. In which case you can kind of coax yourself into the mood. Don't coerce yourself into the mood. That's not going to happen. It's not going to work. You can't force yourself to do these things, but you can kind of coax yourself there a little bit. Just slowly make your way into that zone. And once you do that, then you can have a very fulfilling, very enjoyable sex life. Or it's the other, and that's not so good, and that indicates a big problem in your relationship. But yeah, this little post-it note of just what you should do and just do what you're supposed to do, that's going to make everything better. That's not going to make everything better. Um, but saying, oh, a woman simply shouldn't have to have sex with her husband, it's like, well, don't just write it off so quickly. It's not. It shouldn't be one of those things like, oh, it's a duty, I have to do it. But don't write it off as one of those, well, we haven't had sex for like a year and I don't see why I should have to, because, I mean, he's miserable, but that's his problem. You know, he's got a right hand, right? Like it's works. Don't do that to your partner. It's miserable for them, and it's kind of neglectful of you. And it is. I mean, it's just neglectful. It's neglectful for one partner to do that to another partner. And I don't think it's intentional neglect. Sometimes it is, but it's not always intentional neglect. Sometimes women just get tired. I knew one woman who, she had a baby and she was really distracted, new baby, new everything. Life is crazy. Just trying to keep on top of it all. And months went by and she hadn't had sex with her husband. She didn't even realize it. Like, she just had so much on her plate, she didn't even notice. And then they started having some relationship problems. And then it was like, okay, now we got to look at this. Okay, that's what the problem is. Oh, yeah, we really haven't had sex in a long time. We really haven't been intimate with one another. We haven't been affectionate. And that's one of the things about sex that you got to know about. There's affection that goes into this. There's bonding. It's not just about getting, it's not just about getting your rocks off. It's about sharing a lot of yourself with your partner, which is why you shouldn't be coerced into doing it, because that's not good. But you should be open to doing it, even if you don't feel like it. Tell your partner you need time. Tell your partner you need foreplay. You need to kind of get into the mood. It's going to take a little bit of work. It's not going to happen right away. Get into the practice of just trying to get yourself to that point. And take the time, if it's really, really not working, take the time to think about what will get you aroused. Get to know your own sexuality, get to know your own wants and desires, and share those with your partner. That's one of the wonderful parts of marriage. It's one of the fun parts of marriage. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to start breathing again. I'm going to drink a bunch of water and hopefully feel better. I wish you all a wonderful and fulfilling sex life. And I will talk to you guys later.